So what can we do? What we can do instead is do nothing at all.
Guys, I'm trying to close in on that watch time, so if you can watch this video through to the end, then I would totally appreciate it. Hi guys, welcome to another video. It's a little bit of a different video this week, but of course heavily influenced by my research around personal finance topics anyway. And I feel like one of the things I need to get better at too is connecting the politics to the economics to then the individual, who is us. As a child, I really didn't understand politics. It just felt so stuffy. The mere thought of just understanding fiscal policy or taxes makes my tummy churn a little bit. Like I said, it is a little bit stuffy. Also, the fact that I didn't study politics formally, so it's never really come as something of natural interest. It's only been something that I consumed through the media. And now we know we can talk about the media's coverage of politics all day long, but that's not what this video is about. As life has gone on, and the freedom of our school days are now firmly behind us, as good tax-paying citizens, we need to understand how the system works, how our tax pounds and dollars are used, and also what that potentially means for our investing and the broader outlook on how markets will behave over the longer term. Remember, this is the stuff they don't teach in school. One of the things I have noticed about YouTube and the personal finance community is that for the most part, we are stock pickers concerned with microeconomics. I think we're more concerned with understanding the fundamentals, or even more cases, how pretty the graphs look, and make our decisions based on that pretty much. I hope not, actually. However, the interconnected nature of the macroeconomy, and also myself as a passive investor, I do want to know what's going on in the world. And also a part of that is understanding one of the key tools the government uses to manage their public finances, and that being fiscal policy, which is actually just a fancy word for taxes. Not taxes for the individual, though ultimately it is us citizens that would pay the tax in accordance with the current legislation anyway. Now, understanding tax policy can be pretty boring, I know. However, as good citizens, I think we should understand it and also understand who we are paying for it and voting for it. To have a responsibility to ensure that our governments are spending the money wisely, right? I wouldn't actually trust my 2-year-old with her allowance, not that the government is equitable to my 2-year-old, actually. So as I was doing research, I came across an interesting article. So right now, there is a little bit of a storm brewing in a teacup with our Chancellor, Rishi Sunak. Rishi is our Chancellor and the man in charge of our nation's finances, arguably the second most important person in the UK. I did say arguably, okay. I think the next few weeks will be interesting in the UK as our Chancellor is pretty much set to announce his spending review and budget in the weeks ahead. There's probably a little more room for optimism, and we should prepare ourselves for an austere message, I think. There has been a persistent hole in the UK finances, and the pandemic itself has created a very large one, left by falling tax revenues with the lockdown and massive spending schemes like furloughs, tax breaks, delayed tax payment schedules, leniency on tax revenue collection, eat out to help out, as good as it was. So all in all, I do think the combined effects have caused public sector net borrowing to hit something like £150 billion in the first 4 months of the financial year. And remember, the financial year starts in April. You'll know that if you pay taxes. So now the UK government net debt is around the same levels as our GDP. Let me say that again. The net debt is approximately equal to the GDP, and in June alone it was reported that our debt had topped our GDP. GDP is our nation's total output. That's scary stuff, and that gives me goosebumps right there. So all of these factors will have a huge impact on government policy, and the scale of the crisis will require our government to examine tax policy and most likely raise taxes. A couple of areas which do seem like a natural target to raise taxes are capital gains tax, the tax you pay on profit for an acquired asset. It's always a little bit controversial because you buy assets with post-tax income, corporation tax. Again, a little bit more controversial as it makes the UK less competitive to business. And the other area is probably reducing pension rises. It is another controversial one, I have to say. So the dilemma is that the current government, the Conservatives, have a reputation for both opposing tax increases, money managers. I've said it, that's what it is. That's the reputation. In fact, the government feels that tax rises are toxic, and commentators tend to argue that now isn't the time to lump greater taxes on the UK population. Everyone has to agree with that, right? Even those who do feel like tax rises don't need to be made argue about who should pay them. Some in the ruling party would go for tax rises on the wealthy, other shires feel that the wealthy have paid enough. So it's pretty much just both sides of the coin, really. The scale of the problem has made it pretty clear that no matter what levels of tax on the richest 1% will be, it will make very little difference to the overall state of the public purse. So the government will need to eventually go deeper with tax hikes, which will pretty much increase the hardship, and it isn't a progressive step in reducing inequality at all. So what can we do? What we can do instead is do nothing at all. So with interest rates at an all-time low, which I mentioned before in previous videos, debt isn't such a bad thing right now. Money is literally free. The Bank of England base rate is 0.1%, and while it may not last forever, we can just pretty much leave inflation to erode away the debt, just like how most people erode away their cash in savings account. But that's another topic for another day. But the issue with that is that low interest rates are only sustainable as the markets are comfortable that the government bonds that are being bought are not being eroded away by inflation and credit worries. Another dilemma there. So which in turn depends on having a good fiscal policy. So we have just gone full circle all the way around and made the same point again. It's a little bit of a different video for the midweek spike, but I felt like I had to share some of these musings. So it would be great to get your feedback and some comments down below. Let me know what you think. Hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already. But for now, cheers, bye, I'm out.